Good morning, students. Now we are going to discuss about your English chapter. That means the cherry tree. In the earlier, we have learned something about the cherry tree and how the grandson was going to sow the cherry seeds and he was purchased something about to the cherries and the left behind of three cherries was given to his grandfather for about for eating and is offering also for grandfather. In the meantime, the grandfather is going to be asked what you are going to be do this cherry tree. But the grandson doesn't know to do anything. In the meantime, he is telling that if it is going to be useful means you can sow into the land or in the field. In the meantime, you are sowed in the land and it should be protrudes. And now we pass on to next paragraph. They knew it was a spring when the wild ducks flew north again to Siberia. Here, the grandson and the grandfather will be knowing about that it was spring. Spring means the month it will be appear from March to April. In that season, the wild ducks will flew from north again to Siberia for the sake of survivability, because when there will be a cold, it will be moving from one place to another place for the sake of their survival. Early in the morning, when he got up to chop wood and light a fire, here the cold will be happening, so he was getting up. Who is getting up? Rakesh will be getting up and he was go on chopping the sticks. Chopping the wood means he was going to cut the wood into pieces. When he got up to chop wood and light a fire, he was making some fire for making hot for themselves. Rakesh saw the V-shaped formation streaming northwards and heard the calls of birds clearly through the thin mountain air. When he was going to making of some fire for hotness, Rakesh will observe that V-shaped formation streaming northward. That means the birds will be moving like a V-shaped. If you are going to having some experiences, you can observe in the evening or in the morning. In the morning, the birds will fly from one place to another place for searching of their food. And afterwards, it should be coming from again back their nest. So, here he is also going to be observed that the V formation of the birds will be made. And it is not only V form, it should be in different forms when they go on flying from one place to another place. And also, you have heard about the calls of birds, that means sound of the birds clearly through the thin mountain air. You was going to be observed that some of the birds will be having some sound, making some sounds by the air. One morning in the garden, he bent to pick up what he thought was a small twig and found to his surprise that it was well rooted. And afterwards, one morning he was getting and he was walking in the garden and suddenly he was going to bending down to pick up what he thought. He was thinking that it was a small twig and he was searching, or he was thinking that it was a small twig and found to his surprise. And in that time he is going to be happening surprise in them when he was going to see that one. It was well rooted. Which was well rooted? The seed was well rooted. That means it should be producing their roots. He started at it for a moment, then ran to fetch grandfather. That means after he was going to be stared. Stared means he was going to be observed. Here stared means what? Stared. S-T-A-R-R-E-D. Stared means observing. Observing, and he stared at it for a moment. He observing for a moment, then ran to fetch. Fetch means call grandfather. F-E-T-C-H. Fetch is equal to call. Call grandfather. Grandfather calling, Dada, come and look. The cherry tree has come up. Now the boy will be happier for seeing that the cherry tree will be coming out from the ground, and it should be rooted, and also it should be coming out. Here the grandfather having some surprise. What? Cherry tree? Asked grandfather, who had forgotten about it. Both of them will be forgotten about the cherry tree. But when they are going to be observed that some plant will be coming out, both of them will be surprised. And the seed we planted last year, look, it's come up. That means what they are going to be planted, it's already 1 year will be over. So both of them will be surprised. The seed we planted last year, look, it's come up. Afterwards, Rakesh went down on his haunches. Here, haunches means thighs. H-A-U-N-C-H-E-S. Haunches means thighs. Thighs means legs. Here, Rakesh went down on his thighs while grandfather bent almost double and peered down at the tiny tree. Here, he was standing on his leg. Who? Rakesh. And grandfather will be bending almost double and also peered down, bent down at the tiny tree. Peered means bented. Bend. Peered means bend down at the tiny tree. It was about 4 inches high. They are gone observing that the tree will be appeared as 4 inches. And yes, it is a cherry tree, said grandfather. In the meantime, the grandfather will be bending down and observe that which tree it was. And afterwards, he was telling that it was a cherry tree. You should water it now and then. And also instructed towards to him for watering the plant. Rakesh ran indoors and came back with a bucket of water. Rakesh will be running inside the house and he was coming back with a bucket of water. Don't drown it, said grandfather. Don't pour all the water again, but you can sprinkle and circle it with pebbles. After that, Rakesh will be gave it a sprinkling of water, and he was gone making circled with the pebbles. Underline that sentence. Circle it with pebbles. What are the pebbles for? Asked grandfather. Here, when the Rakesh will be going and making in the circles with the use of the pebbles, in the meantime, the grandfather will be asked, why you are placing the pebble? In the meantime, Rakesh will be telling that it is because for privacy, and we are going to make the privacy for that cherry tree. And he looked at the tree every morning but it did not seem to be growing very fast. Here, both of them were observing the tree, but it did not seem to be growing very fast. Both of them were observing. ಇಬ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಹೋಗಿ ಬಂದು ಗಿಡ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಹುಡುಗರಿಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸಣ್ಣ ಹುಡುಗರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಸಿಯನ್ನು ನೆಟ್ಟಾಗ ಅದು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಬೆಳೆಯುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕುತೂಹಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ದಿನ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ಸಂಜೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒಂದು ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಉದ್ದ ಬಂತು ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಉದ್ದ ಬಂತು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೋಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೇ ತರ ಇವರಿಬ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. He looked at the tree every morning, but it did not seem to be growing very fast. But they are observing means also they didn't grow very fast. So he stopped looking at it. So they will be stopping to look at that. Except quickly out of the corner of his eye. They are always seeing with the eyes only, but they are not showing any keen interest towards to that plant because it could not grow very fast, because due to the weather it should be growing very slowly. After a week or two, when he allowed himself to look at it properly, after 2 weeks later, they will be coming in to see that plant properly. He found that it had grown at least an inch. After that, in the earlier, they will observe that it should be grown 4 inches. After 2 weeks later, week or 2 later, it should be grown only 1 inch. And that year, the monsoon rain came early and Rakesh flooded to and from school in rain. And here, that year, the monsoon rains come. Here also the rain will be raining. Likewise, the monsoon rains will be coming earlier. And Rakesh walked slowly with heavy steps because he was drowned into the rain. To and from school in rain, raincoat and gumboots. He was appearing wearing the raincoat and also gumboots. Here, ferns sprang from the trunks of the tree. Here, ferns will be entering from the trunks of the tree. Strange looking lilies came up. When the ferns will be coming out, the lilies will be appearing outside. That means the flowers will be coming out in the long grass. And you also observed that the lilies also growing up in between the long grass. And even when it wasn't raining, the trees drippled and mist came curling up the valley. The cherry tree grew quickly in this season. And they are observing that when the monsoon will be appear, in that time the cherry tree will be growing very quickly. Because of that, the rain, the trees drippled and mist came. Mist means in the evening we are going to observe that small dewdrops will be showering on our hand and also on our head when we are walking outside. That means we are going to be feeling very cold. That is called mist. That should be appeared in the morning and also as well as in the evening also. There is also when the mist will be dropped and the tree will be growing very earlier. It was about 2 feet high when a goat entered the garden and ate all the leaves. When the cherry tree will be appeared and it should be coming up for 2 feet. In the meantime, the goat will be appeared and ate all the leaves and also the twigs. That means here we are going to observe that the tree will be having some branches. In the meantime, the goat will entering into the field and it ate the leaves. 2 feet branches remained. Only ate all the leaves, only the main stem and two thin branches remained. Here, when the goat will be entered into the farm or into the land and it ate the cherry tree. In the meantime, it was left in behind the only the main stem and two thin branches. That of not thick, thin branches remained. Here the grandfather will be convinced for the grandson. Never mind, said grandfather. Seeing that Rakesh was upset, it will grow again. Cherry trees are tough. Here is instructing that the cherry trees will be growing, that it should be very tough tree also. Towards the end of the rainy season, new leaves appeared on the tree. And at the end of the rainy season, if the rainy seasons will be finishes off, in the meantime, it will protrude the another leaves will be protrude. Then a woman cutting the grass cut the cherry tree into two. In the meantime, the woman will be entering into that place and she was going to cutting the grass for the sake of feeder for the animals. So she was going to cut the grass. In the meantime, she was going to cut the cherry trees into two. Here also the grandson was going to be unhappy. When grandfather saw what had happened, he went after the woman and scolded her. Here the grandfather was going to be observed that what is going to be happen. In the meantime, he went towards to the woman's house and he was scolding her because she was going to be cutted the cherry tree into two. But the damage could not be repaired. Here, the damage is going to be happen. It cannot be repairable. But the grandfather was going to scold that woman. Maybe it will die now, said Rakesh. When it was going to be cutted, all of them are thinking that the tree will be going to be died. It is as usual, naturally, when one plant will be there, somebody will be cutted into two pieces, means it should die. It is the natural way. Maybe, said grandfather, but the cherry tree had no intention of dying. Here, the cherry tree there was no sign of the dying. But the time summer came round again, it had sent several new shoots. When the summer will be appear, after the rainy season will pass out, the summer season will be appear. And in that time, it had sent several new shoots. That means it will produce more branches. When the lady was cutted, and it will produce more branches, more shoots. Shoots means branches with the tender green leaves, and also it produces tender green leaves. Rakesh had grown taller too. At that time, Rakesh is also grown taller. He was 8 now. Now his age was 8 years. And 8 now, a sturdy boy. A sturdy boy means a healthy boy or very fixed or very fitted boy with curly black hair. You have seen in the book or in the figure. With curly black hair and deep black eyes. Here he is having deep black eyes and blackberries, grandfather called them. What the Rakesh is having the eyes, that should be called by them. Grandfather is blackberries. That monsoon, and also summer will be went on. In that monsoon, Rakesh went to home to his village to help his father and mother with the planting and ploughing and sowing. Here, the monsoon will be appear, Rakesh will going back to home for lifting the grandfather. For why he was going home? Because he was going home to help his father and mother. Why he was going back home for helping for his father and mother? Due to the planting and plucking and sowing. Sowing means planting the seeds. Here sowing means planting the seeds. He was thinner but stronger when he came back to his grandfather's house. And after that he was the 8 years boy and he was become thinner. Thinner means smaller, thin shaped. But he will be stronger. When he came back to his grandfather's house at the end of the rains, he was coming at the end of the rains, he was coming back to his grandfather's house. The cherry tree had grown another foot, and he was observing that the cherry tree will be grown another foot. It was now up to his chest. Now it should be coming his chest level. He was observing that it should grow up to his chest level. Even when there was rain, even when the rain will be coming, Rakesh would sometime, even when the rain will be coming, Rakesh would sometime water the tree. Because of his curiosity, he was going to pour a water. He wanted it to know that he was there. That means he was knowing that, he is showing that he was there. So he was putting some water to the tree. And one day he found a bright green praying mantis. Here mantis means what? And you have observed about that. The mantis means the red ant. Here mantis. Mantis is equal to ants. You are going to be observed about that the green praying mantis, bright green. Mantis perched on a branch. It should be appearing on a branch. Peering at him with bulging eyes. That means here peering means it shows at him with bulged eyes. It will rotating his eyes, bulging eyes, and Rakesh let it remain there. Rakesh will be let it remain there. That means you don't disturb that mantis or you won't remove that mantis. You was lefting that mantis on the tree only. Let it remain there. It was the cherry tree's first visitor. Here who is the first visitor? First visitor will be the mantis. That means the Rakesh will be telling about the first visitor will be the mantis. And after that, the next visitor was hairy caterpillar. You are all knowing about that? The caterpillar. Which is the caterpillar? Caterpillar will be jumping from one place to another place. ಮಿಡತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? ಮಿಡತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ. ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ಯಾಟರ್ಪಿಲ್ಲರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನೆಕ್ ಕೂಡ ಹಿಂಗಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಿಡತೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಕ್ಯಾಟರ್ಪಿಲ್ಲರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Hairy caterpillar which started making a meal of the leaves, and it will needing a meal for the sake of it will coming onto the branch, so it will eat the leaves. Rakesh removed it quickly and dropped it on a heap of dry leaves. Afterwards, he cannot disturb that caterpillar. He was removing that caterpillar and he was taken that caterpillar into a heap of dry leaves because it needs food, means it can eating what they are going to be fell down. Likewise, he done his work. Afterwards, come back when you are a butterfly, he said. And he is telling that You will come back when you are going to become the butterfly, he said. And in the meantime, winter came early. See here how the monsoon will be going on. In the starting, it should be the spring, and after that, it should be the which one? Rainy. After that, summer. Now it should be winter again. Winter came early. Winter will be coming early means as early as possible the winter will be appeared. The cherry tree bent low with the weight of snow. Here in the winter will be appeared, the cherry tree will be bending low with the weight of snow. Weight of snow means the snow will be fallen onto the cherry tree. So the tree will be bending down. Field mice sought shelter in the root of the cotton. Here field mice means knowing about the mouse. Mouse means plural, mice means singular. And you have knowing about that mouse. Andre rat or the mouse or mice, they will making shelter in the root of the tree. The road from the valley was blackbird. Here the road from the valley was blackbird, and for several days there was no newspaper. Here when the winter will be appearing, the road should be closed. In the meantime, the newspaper will be appeared that should be not entering into the home due to the closing of the road. This made grandfather quite grumpy. This made grandfather quite anxious about that why the road will be blackbird. His stories began to have unhappy endings, and because he was thinking his stories will be coming unhappy endings. Now in February it was Rakesh's birthday. He was 9, and also the February month will be appear. It was Rakesh's birthday. He was 9 years old and the tree was 4. When he was going to become 9 years, the tree will become 4 years. That means he was planted at the age of 5 years. But almost as tall as Rakesh, but the tree will become more than almost tall as the Rakesh. One morning when the sun came out, grandfather came into the garden. Let some warmth get into my bones, he said. He stopped in front of the cherry tree, stared at it for a few moments, and then called out, Rakesh, come and look. Come quickly before it falls. Here he was calling. One morning when the sun will be came out, grandfather will be coming into the garden. He was entering into the garden, and some warmth get into my bones. Something will be having will be having into my bones, he said. He stopped in front of the cherry tree, stared at it. He was observing very carefully at it for few moments and then called out, Rakesh, come and look, come quickly before it falls. Okay, now we are going to be pass on to next page. Rakesh and grandfather gazed at the tree as though it had performed a miracle. There was a pale pink blossom at the end of the branch. That means the flowers will be protrudes in the end of the branch. Both of them will be seeing, and also God going to be horrified and terrified for seeing that one. Okay. Now we are going to observe what the thing is going to be happen and how the tree will be grown like a rocket will be growing there. Okay. Now we are going to stop here only, students. Now we finish. We will start it in the next class. Okay. For one and all you, thank you once again, children. We will meet you in the next class. Thank you, children.